Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Have you ever stared at your phone, waiting, hoping, wondering why the person you care about doesn't treat you like a priority? You tell yourself you're just asking for the bare minimum. A little more attention. A little more effort. A little more reassurance. But here's the hard truth no one tells men. The moment you ask to be prioritized, you've already lowered your position. Because priority is never negotiated. It is felt. In this video, we're not going to talk about manipulation. We're not going to talk about texting tactics or psychological tricks. We're going deeper. Into discipline. Into boundaries. Into detachment. Into purpose. This is Stoic love. And by the end of this, you will understand one powerful shift. You don't beg to be chosen. You become the kind of man losing feels expensive. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where we will learn, explore and share valuable lessons about love. In today's video, I will reveal to you, don't ask for priority, become worthy of it, a new perspective, helping you better understand the factors that determine a happy and sustainable relationship. Let's explore with me the secrets to building a strong and meaningful love. Before we start, find a quiet place, put on your headphones and relax. Let all your worries melt away, and let the messages in this video help you calm down and feel the most complete. Are you ready? Let's start now. Part 1, Stop begging for priority, build the kind of presence that cannot be ignored. There is a painful truth most men only learn after they have already lost something they deeply cared about. The moment you ask for priority, you have already revealed you don't believe you deserve it. I say this not as a philosopher, but as a man who has sat in silence staring at a phone that never lit up. As a man who once waited for replies that came hours late but saw her online every minute. As a man who tried to communicate his needs when what he was really doing was negotiating for value. And negotiation, my friend, is what men do when they doubt their own worth. This is Stoic love. And Stoic love does not beg. 1. Priority is never given to the neediest, it is given to the strongest presence. In life and in love, priority is not requested. It is felt. Look at men like Marcus Aurelius. He ruled an empire, faced betrayal, war, plague. And yet nowhere in his writings does he plead to be valued. He understood something timeless. The world rearranges itself around those who are centered within themselves. When a man is grounded, focused, and internally stable, people naturally move around him differently. When a man is restless, anxious, seeking reassurance, people feel that too. Women, especially, respond to emotional gravity. Not arrogance. Not dominance. But grounded certainty. And certainty never chases. 2. The silent energy shift women feel, but rarely explain. There is something most men don't understand. When you ask, "Why am I not your priority?" what she hears is, "I am afraid of losing you." And fear, no matter how politely dressed, reduces attraction. This is not cruelty. It is human psychology. Think about Epictetus, who taught, "He who fears loss has already surrendered his freedom." In relationships, the one who fears losing the other more, subconsciously loses leverage. The moment your happiness depends on her choosing you first, you give away your center. And when a man gives away his center, he becomes emotionally negotiable. Women may still like him. They may still care. But they stop prioritizing him instinctively. 3. Why asking for priority feels logical, but weakens you. Let's be honest. You're not asking for priority because you're insecure. You're asking because you feel neglected. You feel the imbalance. You feel you're giving more. You notice she has time for friends, for social media, for random distractions, but somehow, not enough time for you. So you try to fix it through conversation. You explain your needs. You try to be mature. But here is the harsh truth. If someone truly values you, you will feel it without having to request it. Priority is visible. It shows up in small things. Prompt replies. Consistent effort. Respect for your time. Emotional investment without reminders. If you must remind someone to treat you as important, you are teaching them that you accept conditional importance. And conditional importance is a dangerous addiction. For, Stoic love is not cold, it is self-respect in action. Some people misunderstand Stoicism. They think it means detachment. It does not. Even Seneca wrote deeply about love, grief, and attachment. Stoicism is not about suppressing feeling. It is about mastering dependency. Stoic love says, I desire you, but I do not require you to validate my worth. That difference changes everything. A man who requires priority will tolerate disrespect to maintain connection. A man who desires connection but stands firm in his standards will walk if necessary. And walking, calmly, is the ultimate statement of value. 5. The moment I learned this lesson. Years ago, I made the mistake most men make. I gave everything. Time. Attention. Emotional availability. Reassurance. I became reliable, but predictable. Present, but not powerful. And one day I realized something painful. She wasn't prioritizing me because she didn't have to. I was always there. No mystery. No emotional self-containment. No sense that my time was precious. When I finally pulled back, not to manipulate, but to reclaim myself, something changed. I stopped over-explaining. Stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. Stopped rearranging my life for someone who wouldn't rearrange theirs for me. And suddenly, the dynamic shifted. Not because I demanded more, but because I valued myself more. 6. Here is the rule most men avoid hearing. You cannot demand priority from someone who does not fear losing you. And someone will not fear losing you if you have no mission. You have no boundaries. You have no alternatives. You have no emotional discipline. This is why self-development is not about ego. It is about leverage. When a man has purpose, fitness, financial growth, emotional stability, he radiates options. And options create quiet confidence. Confidence makes you scarce. Scarcity creates priority. This is not manipulation. It is natural law. 7. Become the man whose absence is felt. The Stoics teach control over self, not others. You cannot control her behavior. You cannot force her to care more. You cannot script her choices. But you can control your reactions, your standards, your investment level, your self-worth. When you become disciplined in these areas, something powerful happens. You stop asking to be chosen. You simply choose, and if she does not align, you move. Calmly. Silently. Without resentment. And that is when priority finds you, not because you asked, but because you became irreplaceable. Closing reflection of Part 1. Listen carefully. If you ever find yourself saying, "Why am I not your priority?" Pause. Instead, ask yourself, have I become the kind of man whose time, presence, and energy are rare? Because priority is not negotiated. It is earned through presence. And presence is built in solitude. Love is not always about brilliant moments, but often about patience, listening and accompanying in every small step. It is those simple things that nurture a lasting bond. That is also the reason why I believe that every experience in love is an opportunity for us to grow and become stronger. If you feel this, please click like as a way to spread positivity to more people. And if this is your first time visiting our channel, click subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any lessons. I also look forward to hearing your thoughts. What is the smallest but most meaningful thing you have ever realized in love? Leave a comment below, maybe your answer will become a source of inspiration for others. Now, let's continue our journey to explore deeper perspectives right away. Part 2, The Psychology of Value, Why Overgiving Destroys Attraction. Let me tell you something most men don't want to admit. You were not rejected because you cared too much. You were rejected because you cared without discipline. There is a difference. In Stoic love, affection is controlled strength, not emotional overflow. And the man who gives without limits often believes he is being noble. But what he is really doing, is trying to earn security. I've seen it too many times. A man meets a woman he truly likes. He feels connection, chemistry, possibility. And instead of letting it grow naturally, he accelerates. More texts. More compliments. More availability. More emotional exposure. He believes effort guarantees priority. But attraction does not work like a transaction. It works like tension. And tension requires space. 1. The illusion of, if I give more, she'll value me more. When I was younger, I believed that consistency meant constant access. If I showed her I was dependable, she would choose me first. If I answered immediately, she would appreciate my presence. If I prioritized her, she would reciprocate. Logical, right? Wrong. Because value in human psychology is not measured by effort alone. It is measured by perceived rarity. The Stoics understood something modern men forget. Scarcity creates weight. Look at Marcus Aurelius again. His words carry weight not because he shouted them, but because they were deliberate. Controlled. Rare. When a man is always available, always responding, always adjusting, his presence becomes predictable. Predictability kills tension. And tension fuels attraction. 2. Overgiving is often fear disguised as love. Here is the uncomfortable question. Why are you giving so much? Is it because you are abundant? Or because you are afraid? Afraid she might lose interest. Afraid someone else might step in. Afraid that if you slow down, she will drift away. Fear makes men overperform. But overperformance communicates insecurity. Epictetus taught. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In relationships, this means being comfortable not over-explaining yourself. Not over-justifying your silence. Not overcompensating for temporary distance. The man who panics at emotional space reveals dependency. And dependency lowers perceived value. 3. Why women pull back when you lean in too hard. This is not manipulation theory. It is emotional physics. When one person leans in aggressively, the other instinctively creates distance to restore balance. If you text twice when she hasn't responded once, you've shifted the frame. If you rearrange your schedule instantly every time she is free, you've lowered your scarcity. If you constantly reassure her without being asked, you signal you fear replacement. And here is the brutal truth. People prioritize what feels valuable. And value is connected to difficulty of access. Not cruelty. Not games. Just psychological weight. Seneca wrote about moderation, about avoiding excess in all things, even pleasure. Love without moderation becomes indulgence. Indulgence weakens structure. And structure is what makes relationships stable. 4. Emotional restraint is not emotional suppression. Many men misunderstand restraint. They think it means coldness. No. Stoic love is not about becoming distant or robotic. It is about internal control. You can feel deeply, without broadcasting every feeling immediately. You can care, without chasing reassurance. You can desire, without clinging. Emotional restraint creates mystery. Mystery creates curiosity. Curiosity creates pursuit. And pursuit is what makes someone invest. When she feels she must earn deeper access to you, she naturally prioritizes that access. But when everything about you is instantly available, there is nothing left to earn. 5. The danger of becoming safe instead of desired. This part is difficult. A man who overgives often becomes emotionally safe. Reliable. Supportive. Predictable. But safety without polarity leads to stagnation. She may say, "You're such a good man." But her energy shifts. The excitement fades. Because excitement thrives on uncertainty and growth. If she knows you will never pull away, never challenge, never enforce boundaries, you are stable. But you are not stimulating. Stoic masculinity balances warmth with firmness. Care with standards. Affection with consequence. If she cancels repeatedly, you don't complain. You adjust your availability. If she disrespects subtly, you don't argue. You withdraw presence calmly. Not to punish, but to protect your value. 6. The power of controlled investment. Here is the frame shift. Instead of asking, "Why am I not her priority?" ask, "Is she investing at the level I am?" If the answer is no, reduce your investment to match reality. This is emotional calibration. When you invest proportionally, you protect your dignity, preserve mystery, maintain leverage. When you overinvest, you create imbalance, increase anxiety, lower your perceived value. And remember this: you do not build attraction by proving your loyalty early. You build attraction by revealing layers gradually. The man who gives everything up front leaves nothing to discover. 7. The internal discipline that changes everything. True power in love comes from self-regulation. Can you delay a text reply without anxiety? Resist checking her social media constantly? Say no to a last-minute plan when you're busy? Walk away from disrespect calmly? If you cannot, you are not seeking love. You are seeking validation. And validation is addictive. The Stoics were obsessed with one idea. Control what you can. Detach from what you cannot. You cannot control her feelings. But you can control your availability, your emotional exposure, your pace of investment, your standards. When you master these, something shifts. You stop trying to be chosen and start evaluating whether she deserves access to you. 8. The subtle shift that makes you magnetic. Here is what happens when you stop overgiving. You speak slower. You respond intentionally. You prioritize your mission. You don't rearrange your life impulsively. Your time becomes structured. Your presence becomes weighted. And when she senses that losing you is possible, not because you threaten it, but because you genuinely have direction, her investment rises naturally. Not through pressure. Through perception. Priority is a byproduct of perceived irreplaceability. Irreplaceability comes from discipline. Closing reflection of Part 2. Listen carefully. Overgiving feels generous. But uncontrolled generosity in early stages often signals fear. Stoic love is measured, intentional, balanced. You don't withdraw affection to manipulate. You regulate affection to maintain structure. Part 3, Boundaries, the silent authority that commands respect. There is a moment in every man's life when he realizes something uncomfortable. Love without boundaries is not love. It is self-abandonment. You can care deeply. You can desire intensely. You can give generously. But if you do not have lines that cannot be crossed, you will slowly disappear inside your own relationship. And when a man disappears, so does his priority. This is where Stoic love becomes real. Not poetic. Not philosophical. Practical. Because boundaries are not walls. They are standards enforced calmly. 1. Why most men fear setting boundaries. Let me speak honestly. Most men avoid boundaries for one reason. They are afraid it will push her away. They think, if I call this out, she might get upset. If I don't tolerate this, she might leave. If I demand respect, I might lose her. So they compromise. They ignore small signs of disrespect. They accept inconsistent effort. They swallow discomfort to keep the peace. But peace without respect is fragile. And fragile peace always collapses. Epictetus once said, if someone hands your body to a stranger, you would be furious. Yet you hand your mind to anyone who insults you. Most men hand over their emotional state far too easily. A delayed text ruins their mood. A cancelled plan shifts their confidence. A cold tone triggers anxiety. That is not love. That is emotional dependency. 2. Boundaries are not announced, they are demonstrated. Weak men explain their standards repeatedly. Strong men demonstrate them once. Let's say she cancels plans last minute for the 3rd time. The insecure man says, why do you always do this? I feel disrespected. The grounded man says, no worries. Let me know when your schedule clears. And then he reduces access. He does not argue. He does not threaten. He does not over-explain. He adjusts. Because boundaries are not about controlling her behavior. They are about controlling your response. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire surrounded by chaos. Yet his power came from composure. In relationships, composure under emotional tension is authority. And authority earns priority. 3. The psychology of consequence. Here is something most men misunderstand. A boundary without consequence is just a suggestion. If you say disrespect bothers you, but continue giving full access, you teach her that your words carry no weight. Humans adjust behavior based on response. If lateness results in you waiting patiently every time, she learns it is acceptable. If inconsistent effort still results in your full devotion, she learns she doesn't need to increase investment. But when access decreases calmly and consistently, perception shifts. Not because you are punishing, but because you are aligning behavior with standards. Stoicism teaches alignment between principle and action. Seneca wrote extensively about integrity, about living in accordance with your values, not your emotions. If your value is respect, your actions must reflect that. Otherwise, your words are noise. 4. Emotional stability is the ultimate boundary. There is one boundary more powerful than any rule you state. Emotional stability. If she tests you with mood swings, passive aggression, or subtle provocation, and you remain centered, she feels something powerful. Security. Most men react. They defend. They escalate. They seek reassurance. They over-communicate. But the man who listens calmly, responds minimally, and refuses to be emotionally hijacked, he becomes solid ground. And solid ground is rare. Rare is prioritized. 5. The difference between ego and standard. Let's clarify something important. Boundaries are not about ego. Ego says, "How dare she treat me this way?" Standard says, "This behavior doesn't align with what I accept." Ego reacts emotionally. Standard acts consistently. If she disrespects you publicly, ego attacks. Standard withdraws access. If she compares you to another man, ego competes. Standard disengages calmly. Because a man who knows his worth does not compete for validation. He evaluates alignment. This shift is powerful. You stop trying to win her approval. And start deciding whether she qualifies for your time. 6. The silent power of walking away. Here is the ultimate boundary. The willingness to walk away. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Not as a bluff. But sincerely. If you cannot walk away from repeated disrespect, you do not have boundaries. You have attachment. And attachment without discipline breeds anxiety. When a woman senses that you stay no matter what, she unconsciously relaxes effort. But when she senses that you value yourself enough to leave calmly, investment increases. Not because she fears you, but because she respects you. And respect precedes priority. 7. When you stop explaining yourself. One of the strongest signs of internal authority is this. You stop over-explaining your decisions. If you are busy, you are busy. If you decline a plan, you decline. If something feels off, you address it briefly and move forward. No long emotional speeches. No defensive justifications. No persuasive arguments. The more a man explains, the more he subconsciously seeks approval. The more he stands firm quietly, the more his presence carries weight. Mystery is not silence for manipulation. It is silence rooted in self-trust. 8. Boundaries create attraction through structure. Structure creates safety. Safety creates trust. Trust allows desire to grow. Without structure, relationships become chaotic. And chaos kills polarity. A woman may test boundaries unconsciously. Not to destroy the connection, but to feel its strength. If your frame collapses under pressure, attraction weakens. If your frame holds steady, attraction stabilizes. This is not about dominance. It is about consistency. Stoic love is consistent. Measured. Calm under stress. And immovable in principle. Closing reflection of Part 3. Listen carefully. If you want to become a man who is prioritized, you must first become a man who cannot be emotionally negotiated. Not cold. Not distant. Not cruel. But firm. Boundaries are not ultimatums. They are quiet decisions backed by action. Love is a great lesson in maturity. It challenges us with fragility, teaches us patience through waiting, and gives us strength after being hurt. Here, I don't just tell stories for you to listen to, but for you to reflect on yourself and find your own lessons. If you find it valuable, please click like and subscribe, so you don't miss out on the shares that can change the way you look at love. Now, get ready with me, because the rest will have a lot more depth waiting for you. Part 4, Detachment, the freedom that creates irresistible gravity. There is a level beyond boundaries. A deeper layer. Boundaries protect your value. Detachment multiplies it. Most men misunderstand detachment. They think it means not caring. It doesn't. Detachment means this. You care deeply. But you are not controlled by the outcome. That distinction changes everything. Because the man who is attached to outcome becomes tense. The man who is detached becomes magnetic. And magnetism is what creates priority without asking for it. 1. Attachment is subtle, but women feel it instantly. Attachment rarely shows up loudly. It appears in small behaviors. You check your phone constantly. Your mood depends on her response time. You replay conversations in your head. You feel anxious when she seems distant. You don't say it out loud. But your energy communicates. I need this to work. And neediness, even subtle, lowers perceived value. Why? Because need removes choice. And choice is power. Epictetus taught that suffering comes not from events, but from attachment to expectations. In love, expectations create pressure. Pressure creates tension. But not the attractive kind. The anxious kind. 2. The paradox of letting go. Here is one of the hardest truths a man must learn. The tighter you hold, the faster you lose. When you grip too tightly, you overanalyze. You overcommunicate. You overinvest. You overreact. An overreaction destroys mystery. But when you loosen your grip, something powerful happens. You relax. You stop chasing clarity every hour. You stop forcing momentum. You stop trying to accelerate intimacy. And ironically, she begins leaning in. Because tension returns. Space returns. Curiosity returns. Detachment restores polarity. 3. Emotional independence is rare, and rare is valuable. Most people enter relationships seeking completion. They want someone to fill a gap. To cure loneliness. To validate worth. To stabilize identity. But a Stoic man enters a relationship already whole. He has purpose. He has discipline. He has direction. His life does not orbit her. She joins his orbit. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome while maintaining personal reflection and discipline. His power did not come from dependency. It came from inner structure. In modern relationships, inner structure is everything. If she senses that your happiness collapses without her, she feels pressure. If she senses that your happiness continues, even in her absence, she feels intrigue. Not because she wants you to be distant, but because emotional independence signals strength. And strength is prioritizable. 4. The calm man always wins. There will be moments of uncertainty. She pulls back. She becomes busy. She seems colder than usual. The attached man panics. The detached man observes. He does not ignore. He does not suppress emotion. He simply refuses to spiral. This is powerful. Because panic lowers position. Observation raises it. The calm man communicates. I enjoy you. But I will be fine either way. That energy is grounding. It makes her feel safe, not pressured. It makes her curious, not overwhelmed. And most importantly, it makes her invest voluntarily. 5. Detachment is not playing games. Let's make something clear. Detachment is not delaying texts artificially, acting uninterested, withholding affection to manipulate. That is strategy. Stoic detachment is internal. It is the genuine acceptance that you cannot control another person's feelings. You cannot force timing. You cannot demand emotional alignment. You can only control your standards, your investment, your direction. When you internalize this, you stop trying to manage her behavior. And that alone increases your presence. 6. When you stop chasing reassurance. There is a dangerous habit many men fall into. They seek micro-reassurance. Are we okay? You still like me, right? Why are you distant today? These questions reveal inner instability. Stability is silent. If something is wrong, address it directly once. If patterns continue, adjust access. But do not repeatedly seek comfort. Comfort seeking reduces polarity. Confidence creates space. And space creates desire. Seneca wrote about preparing the mind for uncertainty, so that external events cannot disturb internal balance. In love, this is crucial. Uncertainty is part of attraction. If you collapse under uncertainty, you become emotionally expensive. If you remain grounded, you become emotionally secure. And security is rare. 7. The freedom that changes the dynamic. The moment you truly detach, something shifts internally. You begin asking different questions. Does this align with my standards? Is this investment mutual? Am I growing, or shrinking in this connection? You stop asking. Does she still choose me? Because your value is no longer tied to selection. You become the selector. And when a man shifts into selection mode, calmly, not arrogantly, his energy changes. He slows down. He evaluates. He listens more than he speaks. And his presence gains gravity. Gravity attracts. It does not chase. 8. The man who is hard to replace. Detachment builds one thing above all else. Self-sufficiency. You do not isolate yourself. You simply refuse to collapse emotionally. If she leaves, you feel it. But you do not beg. If she distances, you observe. But you do not chase. If she invests, you reciprocate. But you do not overgive. This balance is powerful. Because the man who can walk away calmly is difficult to manipulate. And the man who cannot be manipulated becomes respected. Respect precedes priority. Always. Closing reflection of Part 4. Listen carefully. Detachment is not indifference. It is inner freedom. When you stop needing to be chosen, you start becoming the choice. Part 5. Purpose. Become the man whose life cannot revolve around one person. Everything we've talked about, overgiving, boundaries, detachment, leads to one final truth. If your life has no mission, you will make a woman your mission. And that is where men lose themselves. A man without direction seeks priority. A man with direction commands it naturally. This is the final layer of Stoic love. Not emotional tactics. Not strategic silence. Identity. 1. When a woman becomes your center, you lose your gravity. There is a subtle shift that happens when you fall too deep without foundation. You start structuring your day around her availability. You delay your goals to make room for her mood. You sacrifice progress for proximity. At first, it feels romantic. But slowly, something dangerous happens. Your world shrinks. And when your world shrinks, your presence shrinks. Attraction is built on expansion. A woman is drawn to a man who is moving somewhere, mentally, physically, financially, spiritually. If she becomes your entire focus, she subconsciously feels pressure. And pressure suffocates desire. Marcus Aurelius did not wake up each day wondering who validated him. He had an empire to manage. You may not rule Rome. But you must rule your direction. 2. Priority is given to men with momentum. Momentum is attractive. When you train your body, build your skills, expand your income, develop your discipline, protect your peace, you radiate forward movement. And forward movement signals value. Why? Because people instinctively attach themselves to upward trajectories. When a woman sees that your life is growing, with or without her, she feels two things: security and urgency. Security because you are stable. Urgency because she knows she must keep up. And urgency fuels investment. 3. The Stoic identity, love without losing self. One of the greatest dangers in modern relationships is identity fusion. You become her boyfriend before you remain yourself. You absorb her preferences, adopt her rhythm, mirror her energy. And without realizing it, you dilute your individuality. Epictetus taught that we must know what is within our control, and who we truly are, before engaging with the world. If you do not know yourself, you will shape-shift for acceptance. And shape-shifting reduces respect. Respect is built on stability. If your personality changes based on her mood, she feels inconsistency. If your standards bend to avoid discomfort, she feels weakness. But when you remain grounded in your identity, even while loving deeply, you become solid. And solid men are not easily deprioritized. 4. The man who does not compete for attention. When your life has purpose, something powerful happens. You stop competing for attention. If she posts photos. If other men comment. If her phone buzzes often. You don't spiral. Why? Because your attention is invested in growth. Jealousy thrives in idle minds. Purpose eliminates idle insecurity. Seneca warned about wasting energy on what does not serve virtue. In modern terms, stop obsessing over what you cannot control. Focus on building what cannot be ignored. When your life becomes structured around growth, not validation, your emotional baseline stabilizes. And stability creates leadership energy. Leadership energy creates priority. 5. Become difficult to replace. Let's be honest. No one is irreplaceable emotionally. But some men are extremely difficult to replace. Why? Because they offer emotional steadiness, clear boundaries, purpose-driven life, physical discipline, intellectual depth, calm confidence. That combination is rare. If you lack purpose, you become interchangeable. If you lack discipline, you become predictable. If you lack identity, you become adaptable to the point of invisibility. But when you cultivate yourself relentlessly, not for her, but for your own evolution, your presence gains weight. And weight commands priority. 6. The ultimate shift, from seeking to selecting. Here is the transformation. At the beginning of your journey, you ask, how do I make her prioritize me? By the end of this journey, you ask, does she align with the man I am becoming? That shift is everything. You are no longer seeking validation. You are selecting compatibility. When you operate from selection, your behavior changes. You don't overtext. You don't over-explain. You don't overgive. You observe. You assess. You invest gradually. And that patience increases perceived value. 7. Love her, but love your path more. This is not about cold ambition. It is about alignment. If loving her causes you to neglect your body, your growth, your peace, you are not in love. You are in attachment. True Stoic love says, I choose you. But I will not abandon myself to keep you. That sentence alone separates boys from men. When she senses that you will not sacrifice your integrity to maintain the relationship, she respects you more. And respect is the foundation of lasting attraction. 8. The final truth. Priority is not something you request. It is something people give when they sense loss would cost them. If losing you does not feel costly, you have work to do. Not on her. On yourself. Build your body. Strengthen your discipline. Deepen your knowledge. Protect your time. Guard your peace. When your life becomes structured, purposeful, and self-directed, your presence changes. You no longer ask, "Why am I not first?" Because you understand something deeper. A man who leads himself never competes for position. He either is valued, or he walks calmly, without resentment, without noise. Final reflection. Let this sink in. Do not beg for priority. Do not negotiate for importance. Do not argue for respect. Become the kind of man whose absence is heavy. Because when you embody discipline, detachment, boundaries, and purpose, priority stops being a request. It becomes a natural response. And that is Stoic love. Not desperate. Not manipulative. Not needy. But powerful. Quietly powerful. And quietly unforgettable. Conclusion. In the end, this was never about her. It was never about decoding signals, adjusting your tone, or mastering psychological tricks to secure attention. It was about you. About the man you choose to become when no one is watching. When you beg for priority, you position yourself beneath it. When you demand it, you weaken it. But when you embody value, you no longer need to mention it. Stoic love teaches us something rare in a world addicted to validation. You can care deeply without losing yourself. You can love fully without becoming dependent. You can desire someone without making them your center. Priority is not granted to the loudest man. It is not granted to the most available man. It is not granted to the man who sacrifices himself endlessly. It is given to the man who stands firm in identity. A man with boundaries. A man with discipline. A man with purpose. A man who can walk away calmly if respect disappears. When your life has structure, when your emotions are regulated, when your direction is clear, your presence becomes weighted. And weighted presence creates gravity. Gravity attracts. It does not chase. So stop asking to be chosen. Stop negotiating your importance. Instead, build yourself into someone whose absence is felt, whose time is respected, and whose energy is scarce. Because when you become internally complete, priority stops being something you seek. It becomes something others protect. So today's video has ended. Thank you for taking the time to watch it all. I hope you have learned valuable lessons and these shares will help you on your love journey. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to receive more interesting content in the future. I'm very grateful for your support and see you again in the next videos. Wishing you all love and happiness.